Today, I would like to talk about the myth of sacrifice and the myth of Sisyphus in conjunction. So, to give you guys a little rundown, or before I start, hi, my name is Seville. On my socials, I go by Civillionaire. I'm going to link my Instagram and TikTok in my bio. You guys are free to follow me if you care to do so. So, now that that's taken care of, today I would like to talk about the myth of sacrifice through Sisyphus. So, quick little rundown of the myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus was an ancient Greek king who, just a little short version, he basically pissed off the Greek gods, specifically Zeus, when he told on Zeus to the god of death, Thanatos. Um, Basically, Zeus, not the god of death, Zeus had kidnapped a nymph and her father, Sisyphus, I think is his name. He was trying to chase down Zeus to get his daughter back, and in his search for his daughter, he came across Sisyphus. And Sisyphus told him exactly where to go in exchange for him implementing a stream in his city, which was really helpful for the function of the city. Anyways, after doing so, Zeus obviously was very pissed off because he didn't want to get told on, and Zeus is notorious for kidnapping young women and lying and impersonating to get his way. We're not surprised about that. And also today I'm having some peppermint tea, so I'm gonna take a sip of that every once in a while. Delicious. So, long story short, Sisyphus evaded death on 2 separate occasions through trickery and clever thinking on the spot. But ultimately, when he did die, his eternal punishment was to roll a massive boulder up a mountain. And just as he was about to reach the peak, the boulder would roll down and crush him and get back to ground level. And so he was forced to repeat this for all eternity, right? And what I think is this myth speaks to the natural cycles of the world and the universe and our lives, right? Everything happens in a cycle. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Every night the moon comes out. Maybe sometimes it's blocked by clouds, but it's there. And then there are the human cycles as well. Like for women, we have our menstrual cycle. We, as a general population, have the cycle of wake up, you know, like take care of your hygiene, brush your teeth, wash your face, eat your breakfast, work out, go to work Monday through Friday or whatever your schedule is. And then whatever cycles are important in you in your daily routines, you just repeat them every single day. And sometimes what results in this repetition is boredom. And I feel like a lot of people can resonate, but sometimes boredom can feel insufferable because once you repeat something enough times, it just becomes so naturally wired to you that you can do it on autopilot. And I personally have discovered recently that whenever you find yourself in autopilot, you're not really living because you're not engaged with life. You're not being challenged. So the reason why I bring up the myth of Sisyphus in relation to the myth of sacrifice is because a lot of us are conditioned from childhood to believe that our value and our worth in relation to other people boils down to our function, right? So what I mean by that is, according to capitalism, your value is based on how much money you make, right? How much money you earn per year or whatever, your production value. And when it comes to relationships, a lot of people feel that they need to do things for their partner, like acts of service, or even, again, sacrifice, right? People think that once you come into union with someone, love is supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be about sacrifice. It's supposed to be about giving up something, right? Um, and I feel like although this is such a popularized perspective, it's not necessarily healthy, it's not necessarily productive, and it's not necessarily sustainable in the long term. Because think about it, you get into a relationship with someone that you want to be with, but off the cuff early on, you recognize that you're not aligned on a few different fundamental things. Like, I'm talking about you go to the gym and they don't like working out. You value educational growth, they don't care about that. You are lighthearted, they're dead serious. Um, but because of chemistry, maybe some kind of attraction, you think to yourself, like, it's okay, like, we'll make it work, we'll make it work. And people, more often than not, have a mindset that they're going to change the person over time to make them more perfect for them, right? Like, how many times have you been in a relationship where you're like, this person is like 90% there or like 95% there? But not even that. Oftentimes, I feel like, in my personal experience, I've been in relationships where it was like the person was like 50% there or like 20% there. And then I always had the mindset of like, it's okay, like over time they'll see what I see, they'll value what I value, etc. But sure enough, people don't really change on a fundamental level just because you've been with them for a certain amount of time. And unfortunately, because we have this mindset going in that, oh, they'll change, years will pass and you will go through major milestones in life with your partner and go through, like, people have kids, they buy homes, they build an entire life with someone that never actually aligned with them. And what results is one of two things, or three, right? Number one, divorce, right? Because there's only so long you can tolerate being misaligned with the person that you're like sleeping next to every night. Number two, like resentment, but then still staying together on paper. Because obviously, like, logic is still science, it's a form of science, right? A person not getting their needs met in a certain way and having tried to get those needs met through communication and been met with hesitance, or someone who never actually tried to communicate effectively what their needs are, you still have those needs. Like, if you're hungry, you need to eat. There's no way to not eat and then go around it. Like, you need to eat, right? So resentment happens. Or number three, rarely people actually grow together in a mutually beneficial way. But that takes a tremendous amount of effort and input and communication, right? So long story short, people feel like they need to sacrifice. They feel like, oh, I need to give up, I don't know, I need to give up going to the gym because my partner doesn't like going to the gym. I can't spend Friday night with the boys because now my partner wants to spend that night with me. I need to give up drinking because my partner doesn't like drinking, like whatever. And so fundamentally something that's supposed to add value to your life and make your life so much easier becomes, simply put, a burden, right? Because you feel like you're always giving something up to keep this person around, but that's only because you're misaligned, right? I don't believe that perfect people exist, but I think there are people that are perfect for you, that will complement you. Not just verbally, but like complement with an E, like the yin to your yang. But that being said, there's another layer to this. And this is something that I realized literally like an hour ago as I was leaving the gym. And I had a really good workout, guys. I really enjoyed my workout. I think a huge part of it was the fact that I was so much more intentional with my reps. I was really slow and conscious with my movements, and I didn't rush. And I think that played a huge role in making me feel really zoned in and in the workout. Anyways, as I was leaving the gym, I realized I really do love my life. Is it where I want to be ultimately? No. But is it something I only dreamed of at one point in the past? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Like, there's a, early 20s, teenage, child version of me whose biggest dream was to have her own apartment. And guess what? I have my own apartment. There's a version of me whose biggest dream version of me, literally November, up until November, you could say, I didn't have a car between like August 8th and like Thanksgiving, something like that. I didn't have a car. So I was walking to my job, I was biking to my job, I was catching the bus to go to the gym, or walking to the gym, or biking to the gym. I was carpooling. It was tough. It was a tough period of time. But I remember, because it was so recent, just being like, oh my God, a car would mean everything to me right now. A car would make everything so much easier. And then I bought a car, and sure enough, like, it's true. It really is true. So yeah. There was a time in my life when I only dreamed of a life without chaos, a life without abuse, a life without humiliation and degradation. And here we are, There was a time when I dreamed about having a university diploma, being a teacher, and here we are. So a lot of the things that I could only dream of at one point are now my reality. And I'm so, 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 so grateful for that. Thank you, God. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But there's a lot I had to walk away from. And here's the real meat and potatoes of this video. I used to think that the people, environments, ideas, self-concepts, relationships that I had to let go of, I used to think that those were a sacrifice, right? I used to be like genuinely emotionally pained by the fact that I needed to let certain things go to get to where I want to be. Because I had an emotional attachment to those things. But get this, all the things I had to give up to be who I am today were not even, at one point they were aligned, but ultimately they were not for my highest good. And I knew that at the time, and it was still difficult to let it go. For example, the things I had to let go of to have the life I have today, the daily life I have, right? The daily life I enjoy. Number one, my unhealthy family dynamic and environment. Um, Growing up, I was treated and ultimately felt like and identified as the black sheep of the family. Um, Not because I ever did anything to hurt anyone or humiliate anyone. If anything, it was vice versa. They were always hurting and humiliating me. Not always, but frequently. Um, I was more so the emotional punching bag. But at 22 years old, I had to move out. I had to run away. Um, and when I did that, sure, starting life from scratch was tough. Navigating adulthood, completing college, paying rent, like it was tough, but it was a lot easier than settling in a situation where I knew that I was never going to be seen and heard and respected. I knew that for years, you know? So I left. And over time, my life became more fruitful and authentic to me. And I only stood to flourish from it. Additionally, I had participated in, let's say, numerous long and short term romantic relationships and friendships that were unhealthy for both parties. Um, my anxious avoidant attachment style, it basically led me to consistently be attracted to a certain type of partner who would remind me of the males that raised me growing up, and thus I would form like a natural biological bond, you know? And I, even though logically I knew that that was going to be an unhealthy situation, I threw caution to the wind many times and pursued that relationship only to have it end in a way that um, pained me emotionally. Did I grow from that? Yes. Did I have a lot to reflect on? Yes. Um, but was it something that was ever going to be sustainable long term? No. And I knew that off the cuff. I have this like intuitive ability that when I meet someone or I just see someone, I immediately know that they're going to be important in my life in some way, shape, or form. Like, this is like before I even speak to the person, before I even interact with them, like, I just know, like, brand new person, right? I'll see them in the room and I'll be like, oh yeah, that person's gonna be important. And I just feel it so strongly. And sure enough, we end up being in a relationship. Um, it's really cool how I can do that. But anyways, other things that I had to let go of. Laziness, right? Um, non-accountability, right? Um, Everybody wants to feel good in their skin. Everybody wants to look their best and feel their best. And growing up, I wasn't really guided through the ways in which I could practice. Like, I wasn't really guided through how to practice hygiene in a consistent and optimal way. I was the smelly kid in elementary school. I won't lie. I was the smelly kid. And I got bullied for it for a while. Because at home I wasn't really, like, no one really sat down with me and, like, taught me step by step, you know? I learned hygiene from people here and there and through YouTube, thank God. And TikTok now. But that was my foot, by the way. I didn't fart. Talking about hygiene. Anyways, yeah. So, hygiene, I had to take accountability for. I couldn't just sit there and mope that, oh, no one's teaching me. No, I had to take accountability for that. My nutrition, I have had an ongoing ED for like over a decade. I thankfully, worked through it within the past like 2 years, I want to say. But again, nutrition wasn't something that was really taught to me. So I was significantly overweight as a child, as a teenager, in my early and mid 20s, until I took responsibility. And instead of doing like crash diets and starving myself, I took responsibility for measuring like the appropriate amount of macros, proteins, calories, fiber, fats, all of that, and then implementing a long-term vision rather than like a short fix, because we all know that those don't really work. Same thing with going to the gym. I didn't really start going to the gym consistently until, I want to say, a little over a year ago. I don't really have any excuses for that. I just didn't feel like it. And that's, that's that. I'm not gonna lie about that. But, yeah, within the past like year, I've been more consistent with my routine. Rain or shine, there are just some things that I do every day. And then I'm going to be so real with you. There are more physical practices, like additional physical practices that I want to implement, but some days I do them, some days I don't. But as long as I have my baseline workouts Monday through Friday, like, I'm Gucci. So, that being said, again, back to the conversation about the myth of sacrifice. If you are giving something up to improve your life, I don't see the thing that you're giving up as a sacrifice. I see it as an addition, because sacrifice implies loss. But if you stand to benefit and gain from giving something up, that's not a sacrifice. That's a blessing. Like, I'm giving up toxic relationships so that hopefully one day I gain a legitimate, strong, healthy, mutually beneficial, happy relationship. Like, I will gladly give up like an inclination to toxicity for the sake of something beautiful like that. I will gladly give up weird friendships that don't have my best interest for the sake of quality, genuine, kind, committed friendships. I will gladly give up a abusive family for the sake of a nurturing soul family, you know? I will gladly give up laziness and unaccountability for the sake of taking accountability and responsibility so that I can show up consistently at the gym, take care of my nutrition, practice self-maintenance regularly so I can look and feel my best. So same thing with the myth of Sisyphus, right? Going back to that. I don't really, you can reframe his punishment of pushing the rock up the hill in so many ways to see it positively. Like, for example, if in the process of pushing the rock up the hill eternally, he's not just doing it to do it just to be crushed and have it fall down. Every single time you show up daily and push the boulder up the hill, even though, so the boulder in question is your day, right? Like, what are you conquering for the day? Let's say you didn't have anything to do. You ever had periods in your life where you had nothing going on? No school, no job, no responsibilities, just you and time? Oh my God, for me, what I always end up doing in those periods is doing something. Because, like, for example, I'll go hiking, I'll go to a museum, I'll go shopping, like, I'll paint, I'll do something. Because even with Sisyphus, like, pushing the rock up the hill eternally gives him a challenge to look forward to. It makes him stronger mentally and physically. It gives him more stamina. It's building him eternally, right? And that's the point of life as well. Like, you're supposed to grow, you're supposed to build, you're supposed to get stronger every single day. Okay, so like, let's say you wake up one day, dental routine, skincare routine, breakfast, get dressed, go to the gym, do your workout, go to work, eat lunch, go home, eat dinner, journal, whatever, go to sleep. Repeat. And again, and again, and again, and again, and indefinitely. And the point isn't to escape out of those routines. The point isn't to give up those routines the second something happens in life. The point is to maintain those routines every single day, no matter what, because they serve you, they maintain you, they give you something to look forward to. I don't go to the gym just for fun, even though it's fun. I don't go to the gym just so I can look a certain way. I do it for my mental health. I do it because it grounds me. It shows me at the beginning of each day I can do hard things. That way, when I go to work, like at my job, something always happens. Something like always changes and shifts. It's a constantly changing type of job. So when I ground myself in, like, okay, in the mornings I do this and that's gonna stay the same. And then I ground myself in my night routines, like, okay, every night I do this and that. Then whatever happens in between, I can manage, because I know that I'm grounded in myself, in my being. And long term, my daily routines, they serve me. They are me paying myself. My first energy, what I like to call it, so that's like the time and the energy you have before you clock into your job. My first energy is sacred. My first energy is malleable. It's holy to me. So I want to invest as much of it into myself as possible before I go to work, because the second you clock into work, like, your job owns you. Like, they really do. So maybe right now, financially, I need to go to work and do a certain set of things to make like cash so I can keep paying for my maintenance, but I'm still like investing into myself as well, because it's going to add up, and one day it's going to exponentially bloom and serve me in such a big way, and it already has, and I'm so grateful for that. But yeah, long story short, sacrifice is a myth. Nothing you give up for the sake of your higher self is a sacrifice, it's a blessing. um and your daily routines are you investing into yourself, so be as consistent and precise with them as you can be. Anyways, I hope this video helps. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.